Welcome to the next interview in our innovation series. It's my pleasure to welcome Chrissy Benz, who's the executive director of MineShift Foundation, along with Julia Gartley, who is a founding board member of that organization. So our topic today is really considering the evolution of safety, how, especially within the mining industry, we used to consider it purely from a physical perspective. Let's really try not to injure anyone or certainly to prevent fatalities in a workplace setting. That has become sort of a very important value and a norm across the industry in the last several decades. And now we're seeing an evolution beyond physical safety into something else. So, Julia, I know that your organization has been deeply interested in the safety of mining workplaces. And I'd love for you to just give us a bit of a perspective on how this evolution has happened over the years and why it's so important.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, Erica. I think probably one of the things that I've really noticed, maybe in the last, I don't know, 6, 10 years or something like that, is the switch from, say, just a conversation about purely physical safety to the conversation about psychological safety. And when I say psychological safety, like that really means the kind of safety that you feel in yourself, like being at work, right? So, are you free from discrimination or harassment or bullying? Can you talk to your coworkers? Can you talk to your boss? Do you, feel safe and think safely that you can just show up to work and not have to experience any of these kind of, um, you know, unsafe kind of psychological or mental workplaces, right? So it's
Yeah, like,
really
can I say that? Is it okay? Do I
exactly,
have to edit myself?
exactly. Or even just if you think of, say the way people talk to you, right? Are people saying things to you that make you feel like, less of a person, or that maybe if you went somewhere with them, they might not treat you very nicely, whether it's, emotionally or even physically, right? So those
Mm.
types of things, there's really been the start of the conversation of how that kind of psychological feeling fits into the conversation about safety. And really what we're starting to see people do is kind of leverage that success from, work around physical safety and bring that into the world of psychological safety. So it's kind of really innovative and interesting to kind of see how people have been using those successes that we've had to bring it into that workplace environment.
Amazing. So, I mean, I'm sure there are some mining leaders who are listening to this or considering they're saying, you know what, Julia, that sounds fantastic. I want everybody to feel safe and feel good about themselves all the time, but I just don't know if I can do that. I can't control how people feel. I mean, what would you say to that?
For sure. Like, to me, what I would really say is this is there's a lot of stuff that you probably already know how to do that you could start implementing. And really what we've seen like at Mindshift is this kind of evolution from what was once like a grassroots movements into more of, kind of a top-down regulations type environment. So we are seeing that there's this shift in, the regulatory environment that's asking reporters or organizations to report incidents of harassment, discrimination, bullying. And then not only do they have to report it, they also have to talk to their joint occupational health and safety committees. They have to say what happened and what they're doing about it to improve worker safety. So you say, hey, like, what can I do about it? Because I don't really know. Well, one of the things that's been happening, for, several years, and this is where, kind of mind shift was right at the forefront, was this bystander intervention training.
Mm.
So this is really talking about how do you empower others or yourself to be able to speak up in these situations that you might see. Um, and what we like to talk about at MindShift, the program we have, is Digger. And so it's an acronym that we made for the mining industry so that you
Very
can
on brand.
resonate. Yeah, and it's really about the different types of actions that you can take as an individual to help promote a culture of psychological safety. So if you think about it, we talk about, directly saying anything like the D in digger, right? So if you feel really confident, if you feel really powerful, you can just address it. You can say, hey, don't say that, that's not cool. We don't talk like that here. Um, those are types of things that you can say, but not everybody can do that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there's all sorts of different tools that you can use to intervene in those situations. And then what happens is you show other people what it looks like to confront these behaviors or these, statements that other people are doing. And that also shows them that this is a workplace where those things aren't acceptable. So in a way, it starts to kind of filter across your organization where people will start following and behaving like others because they heard somebody say, "Oh, that's okay," or, "We don't talk like that here," or, things like this, right? So that it starts to kind of say what is okay in your workplace culture.
I'm
So if
wondering,
I
I'm
hear,
thinking back. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was thinking back to, 2018 with the hashtag Me Too, and then, Susan Lomas, the founder of MineShift, started with Me Too Mining. Thinking back to 2018 to 2024, now we have regulations, but before it started with, a bit of a whisper that it's happening here too. Can you talk a little bit about, we think innovation, and then looking back at what that evolution has really been in those 6 years?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it was really powerful when the Me Too movement came out. Really, it was just, people speaking up and saying, hey, this is happening to me too, right? So it's not just this one person in this one place. Um, it's happening to many different people across many different organizations. And, Susan Lomas was, I think really a powerful trailblazer in kind of saying, hey, me too mining, right? Like, there was other industries that were kind of coming out and saying this just doesn't happen just in Hollywood with, you know, young actors. This is happening in all these different places. And when she said that, it was really powerful because a lot of other people started reflecting on their journeys and saying, what does this mean for me? And, for me, when I kind of said and had my Me Too moment, I thought, okay, I'm going to say this and nobody's going to be interested. And this is, the end of my career. And in fact, it was the exact opposite. Was
wow.
all of these people kind of came forward and said, I had no idea. I wish I had known sooner. What could I do? How do I do something? And, you know, I started searching for answers. I ran across Susan doing a talk at CIM and said, hey, I want to do something too. Let's do something together because we can't just be all individuals working. We have to
Mhm.
work together. And, we came up with the Digger program. We started kind of selling this program to different clients and it's been really cool to see the journey that we've done. We started off with universities, other not-for-profits that were working in community. And now we're working with major organizations such as tech, where we've been speaking with, you know, people in their workforce across the world. Um,
Mhm.
so, when I think about that, hey, where did we go? This small group trying to make, an impact, and then now we're able to work with these, international, well-recognized organizations. To me, it says, hey, like people are starting to pay attention. This isn't just for students in university. This just isn't for community workers. This is for everyone, and how do we help bring those skills to all these people? Because to be fair, we don't learn them in school. So how do we help people recognize and develop that confidence in themselves so that they can bring it into their workplaces?
Yeah, and I think it's really exciting. We saw Bill 42 out of Quebec, Ontario regulations, WorkSafe having psychological injury listed as something that didn't even seem possible in 2018, I don't think. So we're
No.
seeing that grassroots coordination community kind of uplifting, and now we're seeing from the top down regulation. So it makes me optimistic that this is where it's going to take all of us to actually shift culture. So maybe as our parting note, just talking about what you see moving forward and where do we go from here?
For sure. And I think I also, I want to say there's other major organizations that have, taken a reflection internally and published their results and said, hey, this happens here, right? If I look at, the Rio Tinto report that came out in 2022, that was super courageous, right? And you really have to commend people for putting themselves out there and saying, "Hey, we really do have a problem in our workforce, and we have some ideas of how to do it, but we need help," right? That's what I kind of saw that report as. And just recently, Goldfields also published. These are international major organizations with huge workforces saying, we want to change this workplace culture. And I think, you know, probably if you were thinking, hey, 100 years ago, there was probably other mining companies that said, you know what? It's not okay that people go to work and go home injured, you know, and they had to kind of set that bar. They had to change that culture. They had to come forward. And, that takes a lot, and I know even in my career when I started, there would still be things where people wouldn't always wear their hard hat or their safety glasses or things like this. And you'd mention it and people would kind of brush you off. But I see that even now in, the 20 years of my career, that it's so much less common. And if you notice something, people immediately take action on their, physical safety. And so to me, I see, hey, like this is going to happen. It's going to take time. It's a culture shift. It's not something that's just, you know, you do this one piece and then all of a sudden everybody shifts their mind. It's going to take time. It's going to take repeated, constant reinforcement. But seeing kind of things come from both sides, you see stuff coming, like MineShift and all these other kind of grassroots movements that was coming up from the employee base and the workers. You see it coming from the government and regulation. And now you see these like major organizations saying, we want to do this too. To me, that says, we are going to see that change. We have to build and do those tools. MineShift has some of those tools to do that. And, if we kind of buy in, if we latch onto this, I think that we will start to see, some pretty significant changes in our workplaces pretty soon.
Well, thank you, Julia and Chrissy, for sharing your perspective and your experience on this really important and fascinating topic. And I just love how you painted sort of this 100-year arc. And the innovators, the people that have really stood up and said, hey, it's not okay that we're injuring people. That 100 years ago, that was a tough conversation. And today, maybe it's still a tough conversation, but we have so much momentum. And I'm so pleased. Thank you for sharing so generously about your own personal experience. And I'm so happy to hear that you had a positive experience and how we can see that momentum around supporting people when they speak up about their own difficult experiences and saying, how can we make these environments safer for everyone on both the physical and a psychological level? So appreciate what you're bringing to the table. And anyone who wants to learn more about MineShift, about their Digger program, or anything else around the history of how this organization has started to really influence the mining industry and take things to the next level on safety, please get in touch with them. Julia, any last words before we wrap today's conversation? We really appreciate your time and your share.
Yeah, no, I guess I just really want to say thank you to you, Erica. Thank you to Chrissy. And thank you to anyone who's listening and watching. This is the first step in your journey towards a safer workplace.
Thank you so much.